What is up, guys? Thanks for stopping by again. We are going to conquer yet another free code camp basic algorithm scripting challenge. And this challenge took a little bit more time to solve, personally at least. But it's called Truncate a string. I don't know, I can't say that word, but whatever. It means to shorten a string, basically. So I'm just going to replace shorten with this. So, oh god, I feel so stupid. If you know how to pronounce that word, put it in like the comments or something. I don't know. Anyways, we want to shorten a string basically. And so let's just go ahead and get into the instructions. So we have to shorten a string, which will be passed into our function, if the string is longer than the number that's also passed into our function. And we have to return that shortened string with a dot 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 at the end. Okay, so that sounds kind of straightforward. We have to basically take the string that's passed into our function and check it against the number that's passed into our function to see if it's longer than that number. If it's longer than the number, then we have to shorten it and return that shortened string with the dot 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 at the end. Okay, so we have the kind of gist of what's going on. Now we just kind of have to figure out what or how to get it to work. So what we can do here is let's just finish this instruction over here because it's kind of important. So we have to remember that by inserting the three dots at the end, we'll also add to the string's length. And that's kind of important because it's something we have to do or to take care of so that we can actually pass this challenge. Those three dots will actually make our string 3 characters longer. But if the given number is less than or equal to 3, then the 3 dots don't add to the string length, or they're not looked at as they're not used to determine the string's length, basically. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's just go ahead into the code before I confuse the heck out of you and you leave this video. If you do leave this video, I don't blame you. But okay, so let's just start off by kind of using some Pasquado code to write our skeleton here. I already have everything written out, but of course I'm going to explain it as best I can. So, first of all, we have to check to see if our string is longer than the number that's passed in. That's really what this is all about. So we can obviously use the dot length function against our string to get the length of that string, and we can check and see if this string is greater than the number. Now, it's important that we make sure that we don't use greater than or equal to, because if we do, we're not going to pass this challenge. We want to make sure that it's actually greater than that number. Okay, and if it is, then we're going to go into our code here. But if it's not, then we're just going to return the string because it's short enough as it is. All right, so if that string is longer than that number, we have to find a way to shorten it to that number and add the dot 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 on the end. But we also have to keep in mind that there is another condition we should check for. We want to see if the number is less than or equal to 3. Because if it is, then we have to do something different with our string before we can return it. As you can see down here in the helpful link section, we can use the slice function to kind of help us with shortening our string. And remember, the slice function takes in 2 parameters, and that is the start position and the end position. The start position is basically where the slice will start to chop the elements from the string, and the end position is where it will end. Now remember, this is important. With the slice function, the ending number that you pass in is not the number it will end on. It will actually end the number before that number. So for instance, I know this is confusing, but for instance, if this number here, for instance, is 11, it's not going to end at 11, it's going to end at 10. So keep that in mind when you're writing code, that the slice function doesn't stop on the number, it stops the number before. Okay, so I know this is kind of confusing here as to why I have these 2 different conditions, but it's because of what it says here, that if the number is less than or equal to 3, then the three dots don't really matter with the string's length, so we don't have to worry about adding them onto the end. If you see down here, I make a variable. I call it shorten string. Of course, you can call it whatever you want. And all I do here is I take the string and I call the slice function upon that string. I say that I want to start at the very first element in that string, which in this case, taking this string for instance, would be the letter A. I want to start at the letter A, and I want to end on the number that's passed in, which in this case would be 11. But take note that I'm saying num minus 3, and I'm doing that because we want our string to be shorter than the number that's passed in. If I were to just take off this minus 3, the string would slice from A all the way till the 10th letter, and then it would also add on the three dots, which would not make our string 11 characters long, but it will make it 11, 12, 13, 14 characters long, which will once again make our string too long. So we have to make sure that we take off those three dots, which is why I use the minus 3. Hopefully that makes some sense. If it doesn't, you can comment below and I can try to explain it in simpler terms or in a way that's more understandable. But and if we go back up to here, hopefully now you can understand why I didn't take off the minus 3 here, because of that condition that they gave us. If the number is less than or equal to 3, less than or equal to 3, then the three dots really don't matter. So we don't have to subtract the three dots from here. And if that's the case, we can just go ahead, slice from the first character, stop on the number, add the dots, and then return that completed string, which I named other string, but you can name whatever you want to name. And then if we do have something that's more than 3 characters, we just go down here, subtract those 3 extra dots, and then return that string. Hopefully that makes some sense. Basically, this is all we have to do. It just takes a little bit of, logic to try to figure out how to add those dots on there, which I use concatenation. It's just a simple concatenating a string. And then how to get rid of the extra numbers, which we can just use with a little bit of extra thought. We can figure out that we have to subtract them. And then we can just use basically one function, which is the slice function, and our results would be correct. We can go here, submit, and everything works. Like I said before, if you have any questions though, leave a comment below and I'll get back to it as soon as I can. Other than that, hopefully this helped in some way. Subscribe.